Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Forward DFW together with the Dallas Morning News. I'm Ron Corning, and we are tackling the issue of hunger and food insecurity in North Texas. And if you're hearing this and thinking, I know a lot about it, I've heard about it everywhere, I've already given to the cause, there's nothing more I need to know about it, trust me when I tell you, we're going to have a conversation today that will be enlightening and hopefully will inspire you to think differently about what it means to be food insecure. I can't think of anyone better to talk to about this issue than Tricia Cunningham. She's the CEO of the North Texas Food Bank, which has been a leader in this space and set an example for food pantries and food banks all across the country. So Tricia, thank you for having this in-depth conversation. I think it's really important.
Thanks, Ron.
I want to start with a statistic here and ask you something. 815,000 hungry people in North Texas, okay? That's 1 in 6. 305,000 kids live in food insecure households. Do I know somebody who's food insecure, but they just haven't told me or they just haven't made it known?
You know, it's very likely, Ron, that you do, because oftentimes the people that we serve are the underemployed. So they're able to make some of their income, but they're just not able to make ends meet. So the majority of those we're serving are the working poor. And we saw also during the pandemic both caused and exposed existing food insecurity in our community. So you saw those big long lines of cars during the pandemic that we were feeding. So many of them did not ever have to have charitable food assistance before. And these are people that had the rug swept out from under them because of the pandemic, and almost every zip code was impacted.
Well, it's interesting because I drive 3.5, 4 miles to the studio where I do my show from Oak Cliff down Westmoreland, turns into Mockingbird, and I believe it's on Wednesday mornings. Maybe you could speak to this. I wonder what the backup is, and it's not past tense, it's even now. I wonder what the backup is, and I realize it's people turning in to get food, to get fresh produce. Many people are still underemployed, and that's a hard thing to reconcile because the media tends to, and perhaps I'm guilty of this as well, focus on how well we're doing coming out of it, how prosperous this community is, how giving this community is. We just celebrated North Texas Giving Day. Do you think in all of that talk, we really are missing what it means to be food insecure?
So food insecure really just means that you don't know for certain if you're going to have enough money or resources to put dinner on the table that evening. So there's many people in our community that don't have that. And people were so generous during the pandemic to be able to help us to meet the needs in our community. We had a meal gap even before the pandemic, but we felt like during the pandemic, with the assistance of our over 200 partners in our feeding network, we truly were able to get the necessary food out in the community. But even early on, we actually had some consultants help us to understand, what does this mean? I mean, we're still in the pandemic right now. There are still many people who are suffering, but we were told that we could expect at least 18 to 24 months, even after we get beyond the pandemic, that we would still have families that would still be trying to sort of help lift themselves up out of this financial impact that they've had from the pandemic.
You and I have had this conversation before, and I want to bring those of you who are watching in on this conversation. So for a very long time, organizations like yourselves were identifying those who are hungry, collecting enough food from various sources in order to meet their needs as needed. And it was a job well done and a week well served if every person who showed up at your door got a meal and had 3 meals a day. You're going beyond that now, though, and you're beginning to look at, why are they food insecure? Why do they continue to come back more than once? And is it an issue of a health crisis? Is it a mental health issue? Are they unemployed and unemployable? And can you help them get the work skills they need to be employed again? How are you beginning that process of becoming more than, I don't want to downplay what you do, but more than just a food bank?
So if you look at our community and you look at what the needs are in our community, we have to meet that basic need of food first.
Right.
So many of our pantries, they get people in the door because of the fact that they need access to food. And we have some of our sort of exemplary pantries out there that they use that sort of as the hook to get them in, but then they try to say, well, why are you hungry? They actually do what they call case management, and they say, are you underemployed? Are you unemployed? Do you need additional education? Do you have a health issue that's causing you to not be able to work or not be able to fully be employed? What is it that's causing you to be able to need access to food? Then they can work with them and help them to be able to get beyond that. And so that's what we're trying to do. We have a new strategic plan called Nourish North Texas. And so we didn't want to rest on our laurels just because we felt like we were able to get more food out. But what we're trying to do is use that core competency of food to not only deliver access to the amount of meals that are needed in our community, but also trying to work with our partners and even some non-traditional partners on these root cause issues. Hunger is a symptom of poverty, and we have to work on what those root cause issues are in order to be able to get less people who are hungry.
Right. Rather than, and I know the medical industry has been accused of this, the pharmaceutical industry, rather than continue to give someone something that might tamp down the symptoms of a disease, what's causing the disease?
So we're looking at healthcare, for example. We're looking at partnerships with hospitals.
Which is unconventional.
Where we would actually have an on-site pantry that they would run, and a doctor or a social worker could try to determine if that person needs access to healthy food. If they don't have adequate resources, they could actually prescribe that they could go to the pantry and get the kind of food that they need that's going to help them get beyond their health condition.
Or a doctor or someone in a hospital can much more easily identify when somebody comes in hungry that they're dealing with some other health issues that are unaddressed, and can then get them on a protocol of treatment to get on a better track to better health.
Absolutely. But we know that there are children out there that they don't have access to the healthy food that they need, and that can be a lifelong issue that can cause to additional health issues down the road. So we want to work early to be able to address that, but then all those that have existing issues, what do you need if you're diabetic? What kind of food do you need? Making sure that they have access to the kind of nutritional counseling perhaps that they need. Or, as we talked about in education, so many students at let's say Dallas College, we have a partnership with Dallas College, and we have a mobile pantry that goes to all of their campuses, and we've worked to ensure that they have food pantries on site, because one of the number one reasons why a student might drop out of school is because they can't afford to stay in school, because they would have to work or go to school, and it would be hard to excel at either one of those.
You've talked about that. So they're trying to break the cycle of poverty by going to college, and yet hunger still plagues them to the point where they have to make a difficult decision to give up on the track that would make their lives better.
Exactly.
I think it's also important for people to know that there are various ways in which they can give. It's not just about volunteering. It's not just about giving money, and you've made it incredibly easy.
Absolutely. So, anyone can go to our website at ntfb.org/donate, and they can donate dollars, and know that every dollar that they provide can help us provide a minimum of 3 meals. And 95% of all of our resources goes directly to feeding programs. So we try to be as efficient and effective as possible with the resources that we're given. And the other part of our resources is donated food. People can do virtual canned food drives, or they can do a physical drive, and they can donate it to the North Texas Food Bank. Or if you're a food retailer or grower or manufacturer, we need truckloads of food. That's fantastic. The third way is really use your voice. There is so much policy that impacts the amount of funding that we get from the government. Make sure your elected officials know that you want them to support policy that helps food banks get food to the people that need it, or get resources that they need out to the community for those that are food insecure. And then finally, volunteering. We've been open for volunteers in a very safe environment since February. We love to see families come out and help volunteer with us. They can work in our garden. We have ways that they can virtually volunteer, but primarily in our distribution center. We have Tuesday through Saturday, 2 shifts a day, where people can come and help us to kit food in boxes and sort food. And then also in our mobile distributions, when we go out into the community and we distribute food into the cars of those that need it.
And so we're going to talk to one of your partners and the work they do in conjunction with you, as you take a much more comprehensive approach to how you deal with food insecurity and hunger, when we come back in just a moment, Tricia, and you'll join us at the end of this broadcast as well. And we will be back here in just a moment. Stay with us. To support the North Texas Food Bank and the Nourish North Texas campaign, please visit ntfb.org/donate. And we are back now continuing to discuss food insecurity and hunger in North Texas, the work that the North Texas Food Bank does. And their latest campaign is actually called Nourish North Texas. And when you take a look at that word nourish, they're nourishing people in so many different ways. And they're doing it in great part with the help of Tracy Eubanks, who's the CEO of MetroCrest Services Incorporated. So a partner agency of North Texas Food Bank, and yet you work independently as well to provide a range of services to the community. But how important is it to know that the North Texas Food Bank is out there and may be, for some people, the only point of human contact they have if, in fact, they are suffering from poverty, they are shut in, and the only human contact they have is with that person at the food bank?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we're all finding is the level of food insecurity in all of our communities, regardless of where you live, continues to grow. And as a pantry, as part of a large network, we're very dependent on North Texas Food Bank. It's not just providing food, providing healthy food. As Tricia Cunningham was talking about, we really want to make sure that our families have access to food that nourishes them and provides the quantity of food that family needs to get through that week. It's usually that crisis of food or maybe housing instability that causes a family to reach out to a place like MetroCrest Services.
Well, it's also possible, isn't it, that if somebody has reached the point of hunger, they may be one step closer to the point, as you say, of being homeless as well. And therein lies the crisis of poverty. And then that brings with it a whole range of issues and problems that may mire them in a situation that is irreversible.
Right. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. For a very long time, you've worked with North Texas Food Bank. They have been leaders in identifying that hunger is a symptom of poverty and helping those and partnering with you. Do you think it's getting easier, better? Do you think the network is bigger in order to help people who really need a range of services?
Yeah, I think the network continues to grow, and I think it is better because so many of us look at poverty and hunger often as a crisis of the moment. And so families that come to a place like MetroCrest Services are coming because there's no food in the cupboard. They are about to be evicted. It's a senior living at home and the water's been turned off. There is a crisis, and we want to make absolutely sure that we help alleviate that crisis. But while we have them there, and these are our neighbors, literally our neighbors. I see my neighbors in our lobby on occasion. We want to make sure we're there to help them with more self-sufficiency, independent type programs. So, for instance, we work really hard to help people understand their budget spending plans, how to manage their money, what a credit score is. That it's okay to pull your credit score. We can help you improve that. That financial empowerment piece of our model. And the other piece I think is critical is employment. It's often the underemployed, the unemployed, the poor wages, the lack of quality employment that causes folks to come to our door for the first time for that crisis. So our objective is to make sure that we help people move forward along that spectrum beyond the crisis.
So while the North Texas Food Bank is there and serving people with the food they need to have the energy they need to continue to live their lives and hopefully turn things around, you're there providing emergency financial assistance so the water isn't turned off or the water can come back on, the power can come back on. Employment, coaching, and job readiness. What does that network look like, and who do you turn to when somebody is unemployed and they feel, and maybe not rightly so, they feel that they are unemployable and you see in them the promise of a future job?
Yeah, I think what I've learned in this job is that so many people come to us and the dreams that they have been extinguished. And we want to rekindle those. And we rekindle those by one, let's make sure that you have food, that you have housing stability, but also help you find that transformative job. We have a whole workforce team. All they do all day is work on resumes and mock job interviewing. And how do you network? Helping people find clothes, bus passes and gas cards to get to interviews. We believe that anybody that comes to us can improve their employment situation. The key is getting them in the door. And often it's that food need that we all have that introduces them to MetroCrest Services.
I always try to impress upon people whenever I'm covering events like North Texas Giving Day or the Salvation Army's campaign during the holidays, that we're inspired to act when it's in the air. We're inspired to act when attention is brought to it. But there are problems that are year-round. We know that. But there are problems that are seasonal. Children in the summer, they rely on food programs at school. They don't have those in the summer. Winter comes and they've grown from the year before and they don't have a winter coat or they don't have boots. And so how do you work against that, or not against it, but in the flow of it really, on North Texas Giving Day or other charitable holidays, to say, thank you for giving now, but please be mindful year-round and give whenever you can?
Right. I think we all have experiences throughout the year where we spend a little bit more money than other times. And so the families we help, they're really struggling on a weekly basis. A mom with kids comes to back to school period and she has to go buy school supplies. She uses school supply money instead of rent money. Same thing happens from the holidays or summer feeding. Kids who normally get a free meal at school all of a sudden are at home and that meal is not available to them. So it's important that those of us in this North Texas Food Bank Network continue to educate our communities on the year-round need, and just through great communication. I mean, almost everything we do revolves around food, whether it be ongoing pantry food, holiday food, summer food. There's a good message for all, and I think everybody, because of the pandemic, really understands that this particular need can impact anybody.
Well, you know, I also have found, this has been my personal experience, others listening may be able to find, if I'm standing in line at Tom Thumb and I'm getting ready to pay, and on that little screen pops up a message, would you like to donate to the North Texas Food Bank?
Right.
Would you like to donate to the victims of Hurricane Ida? And I see $3, $5, $10. I look at what I'm spending. There's a bill of $120, and it's so easy to push that button. Are those the kinds of partnerships you're talking about? Because it reminds us on a regular basis as we're standing in a moment, whether it be at Starbucks buying that expensive drink or at a grocery store with a bill that includes a couple bottles of wine when some people can't buy bread, that there's an option right there in front of us. To what degree has that helped your cause?
Yeah, I think the pandemic certainly has magnified the great need in the community for basic services. And so what we want to do as a nonprofit industry is to make absolutely sure we make it as easy as possible for people to give. We find that younger donors want to make it simple. They want to give at the cash register. They want to give at Starbucks, and we want to make absolutely sure they can do so. And it's just a constant communication and awareness. I think the pandemic has really magnified and exposed the divide in our economic community, and that folks that were on the lower end of the income spectrum were impacted first, and they'll be the ones to recover last. And we need to make sure that information's out there for folks so we can continue to provide support.
And Tracy, we don't want to give people the impression that North Texas Food Bank is your only supporter, or that people who are out there watching don't need to support you because they've got your back. How can individuals, people who are watching this, support what you do directly?
Sure. Well, first, go to metrocrestservices.org. There's a myriad of ways to help, but of course, a monetary donation always assists the organization. The other way is to volunteer, to giving of your time. We rely heavily on volunteers to be able to do the work that we do every day, so volunteer. The other way is in-kind donations. Do a food drive at your business, at your church, at your PTA. That helps tremendously. And be an advocate for those in your community that you know are struggling. We want a thriving community for all in the MetroCrest area, and you can help us do that.
Yeah. And being aware, because if somebody is aware of what you do and they have a neighbor or a friend or a family member who confides in them that they're struggling, they can say, I know this great organization.
Absolutely. We always want you to reach out. If you have a neighbor in need, if you see a senior that maybe hasn't left their house in a while, give us a call. We want to check on them. These are our neighbors. We're in this together.
Yeah. Great message there, Tracy. Thank you. We appreciate it. Tracy Eubanks, the CEO of MetroCrest Services Incorporated and a partner of North Texas Food Bank as they launch their Nourish North Texas campaign. And we will have a final word with Tricia Cunningham and Tracy in just a moment. For more information about MetroCrest, visit metrocrestservices.org. We are back now with Forward DFW as we shed a light on the North Texas Food Bank and their most recent campaign, Nourish North Texas, which runs through 2023. They've set some lofty goals. Let's run down through them here. $150 million in cash donations, $300 million in-kind food donations, and $50 million for the Feeding North Texas Foundation. We've put a QR code here at the bottom of the screen, which makes it really easy to just take your phone camera, scan over it. It will take you directly to the website. You can see there all the ways in which you can help meet their goals. And we're back with Tricia Cunningham from the North Texas Food Bank, as well as Tracy Eubanks with MetroCrest Services for a final word on all of this and how you're going to meet this goal. This campaign has been underway for a little while. Are you feeling good about where you're at in it on the pathway to meeting your end goal?
I think what we found during the pandemic is that no one in our community wants to see their neighbors go hungry. And this campaign is to support our strategic plan that, number one, ensures that we have access to enough food to be able to distribute so that no one in our community goes hungry. But it also helps us to help focus on those issues of why someone is hungry as well. And our community has really stepped up. And so we have no other expectation that they will continue to be able to support this issue, is we're trying not only to feed people today, but also provide them hope for tomorrow as well.
So the pace of giving so far has been pretty good?
So far, we're on track. And, every month we sort of hold our breath at the end of the month to make sure that we are going to have what we need. But, it seems lofty. I mean, our food budget has increased to half of our full budget. We used to spend about $5 million on purchasing food. Now we're spending $30 million a year just to purchase enough food to ensure that people don't go hungry in our community. And that's why the other reason you talked about the food donations, we've never really included that as part of our campaign before, but that is so critical to us being able to have access to the additional food that's needed. So we're purchasing a lot of food, but we also need a lot of donated food. That equates to over 1,600 semi-tractor trailer loads of food that we need to be able to get it to partners like Tracy at MetroCrust so that they can serve it out to the community.
So literally it's a matter of, Tracy, if you're at the grocery store, buy one thing for someone else.
Absolutely.
Right? A non-perishable. Tricia and I have had this conversation before about how impressive the facility is at North Texas Food Bank, specifically the refrigerated area, so that they can store and serve fresh produce and meat and so forth, so that their clientele aren't just being fed, but they're being fed healthy food. But we also have a hard time reconciling with how impressive it is, because what would be more impressive is if Tricia were to say to me, we're leasing out half of this refrigerated space because we don't have as many clients anymore. And I know you feel the same way. You feel like you'd be more accomplished if you had to go out of business.
Right. Wouldn't it be great for once to be able to say my business is in decline, that
Yeah.
poverty and hunger are in decline in our community? Unfortunately, that's not the case, and the pandemic certainly has magnified that for us. What we love about the North Texas Food Bank is it allows us as a pantry to have just-in-time inventory. We're able to order food from the pantry, from the North Texas Food Bank for our pantry, and it comes the next day. It's healthy food. Our clients benefit, and allows us, again, to talk about other things like employment and financial empowerment.
What are other communities doing? Because you're sort of a feeder. I mean that, well, of course you're feeding people, but for smaller communities, they feed into your network, right? What are smaller rural communities where there might be a higher rate of poverty per capita doing with trying to feed those who are hungry when they're not in a metro area and they don't have a North Texas Food Bank and they don't have a prosperous community that can give tens of millions of dollars collectively?
Well, we actually serve those rural areas. So we serve 13 counties. So we go all the way up to the Red River. We go to a couple of counties down south. So we serve urban, suburban, and rural hunger right with the North Texas
Yes,
Food
here in
Bank.
North Texas, but I have to wonder about not every food bank or not every operation is as robust as yours.
Well, unfortunately, it is unacceptable here in North Texas that we have the 5th highest number of children who are food insecure in the country overall, and we have the 6th highest overall population in the entire country that is food insecure. That's right here in North Texas. But every zip code in the United States is served by a Feeding America food bank. And so just like we have the North Texas Food Bank here and other parts of the country, they have other food banks that are also trying to tackle these issues of hunger. And we work together and we share best practices and we try to see how can we really tackle these issues. And so some of the new work that we're doing, we're calling that at the Feeding America level sort of service insights. What do our clients need in order to get beyond this issue of hunger? So it's not like we're out there on our own. We have our partners that have been doing this work for years and years. They're providing input to us. We're getting insights and inputs from others across the country. And then we actually take a very data-driven approach to how we work on hunger. We have food insecurity maps. We try to understand by zip code where there are high needs that are not being served by a food pantry or an organization in that community. And then we try to focus additional resources there. So we have our own mobile distributions where we can take them out into communities that may not have access to a food pantry. And so we put those on the road ourselves, But I sort of think of the North Texas Food Bank as a nonprofit logistics organization. About 80% of the food that we bring in goes through our partners like MetroCrest, but then there's 20% that we're able to identify and direct into areas where we know are high need that are not served. But then it's our idea that we want that community help to come along beside us so that we can try to find a long-term solution for those hunger
I was going to
needs.
say your means and mechanisms by which you identify these communities and serve them so quickly could be a model for any range of community services, right?
Absolutely.
I'm wondering, Tracy, as we talk about this and we talk about the struggles and we talk about poverty and we talk about people in crisis, what comes to mind for success stories of people who you've come in contact with, that your agency has come in contact with, who stand as a real example that they can turn things around, that they do have a future?
Sure. And I think often people come to a place like a MetroCrest Services, especially during the pandemic, when they've lost hope. And so rekindling hope is quite a success in itself. And often they come through our pantry line, our drive-through pantry. We're providing food on a weekly basis. We convince them to talk to our workforce specialists to talk about jobs. They're very employable, but again, they've lost hope. We want to rekindle that for them. So the biggest successes come when we find someone who's unemployed or underemployed, and they find that perfect job, maybe that job they've wanted all along. And all of a sudden, they're able to take care of the kids. We have a woman right now we're working with. She just bought her first car all by herself. She sent us a thank you note yesterday about it. And now it allows her to drive a few hours south to visit one of her children who are in a special hospital that she couldn't go visit before. That to me really matters. And often it was the food pantry that drove them to us to begin with.
And I know you've had clients, one in particular who shall remain nameless, who I was very close with, who gave back to you when she was doing better because she needed you in a time of crisis. Do you have clients circling back after having been fed by you to say, I'm doing better now and I want to help feed others?
You know, it's a little bit of a circle. We see that situation where as soon as they get where they can, they want to come and donate, and they want to come and volunteer, or they want to serve other people, and they want to tell people that they're going to be treated with dignity and respect no matter which pantry they go to or whether they go into one of our mobile distributions. Everybody needs a little help sometimes. And we see that all the time. And the sad thing during the pandemic is we have seen people who have come and volunteered with us, or they have contributed to us, or they were a donor, never expecting that they would need charitable food assistance. You know, we're the North Texas Food Bank. We are there for the community, and we're there for everyone in the community whenever they might need a little extra help. And because they can get a little help from us or one of our feeding network partners, then they might have enough money to pay that rent that month, or to pay for the school supplies that their child needs to be able to continue their education. There's nothing more heartbreaking than to see a family and them have to wonder, how am I going to take care of my kids? And, you know, another wonderful example that I had was actually with MetroCrest. There was a woman there that her and her son ran a convenience store in downtown Dallas, and her husband became ill and they had to close down the store, and she didn't know how to translate those business skills that she had into something that was employable. And so she came to MetroCrest because she was hungry, but they identified that this is what her background was, and then they helped her to be able to gain employment with Thomson Reuters and use those skills in a different way to be able to ensure that she had gainful employment.
Great way to wrap it up, because it brings us full circle and explains why we're here and what this new campaign, Nourish North Texas, is all about. Tricia Cunningham, thank you. Tracy Eubanks, thank you as well. We appreciate it. And thank all of you for watching and being part of Forward DFW together with the Dallas Morning News. I'm Ron Corning. We will see you next time.